Welcome to the BizGrowMojo podcast, the podcast where we get into real talk about business ownership, growth, marketing, learning lessons, and advice with real business owners. Here's your host, Ryan Amon. Now, let's get down to business.
I'm pumped to get this rolling. Let's go. What does it take to scale a digital agency from 0 to 30 employees while managing multiple businesses at once? In this episode, I sit down with Erica D'Arcangelo, who runs not one, but two agencies alongside a rapidly growing pizza podcast. Erica shares the exact numbers behind her growth strategy, from sending a surprisingly high number of weekly messages to the formula that can generate up to $50K of consistent monthly revenue. We dive into the real challenges of scaling from $1 million to $10 million, why organic SEO beats paid ads every time, and why it will likely take 10x more than you expect to really move the needle to grow your business. If you've ever wondered what it really takes to build a marketing empire while staying hands-on with your clients, this conversation is packed with actionable insights you won't want to miss. Let's get into it.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you coming on to the podcast, Erica. I think there's a lot of good information we can go over and topics to discuss. We've got a lot in common here with the fact that we're both running digital agencies and doing a podcast, I think. So,
Yeah.
Maybe we can just start there. If you can just talk a little bit about, from my understanding from our previous conversation, you're running two different agencies and a podcast. Is that right?
Yeah. So, I started the first one about 15 years ago, and it's just like a very traditional marketing agency with websites and SEO, content creation, social media, email marketing type stuff. And then we launched a video production company about, I'd say a little bit over a year now. And we do a lot of shoots and we go out on location, and I kind of streamline that into my podcast and my pizza career. So I use our video services quite a bit.
Awesome. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I noticed your looks like the video quality and everything, and the way you got your podcast set up on YouTube is very nice and good setup. I'll have to pick your brain a little bit about some of the things that you've done there later on. But yeah, so what kind of inspired you to start a digital agency to begin with?
So funny enough, I went to school for communications, and then my first job was working for a healthcare company doing digital marketing. And it was sort of at the time when you had to HTML code websites, and a lot of the marketing was getting, stuff on TV or getting stuff on the radio. And then we kind of had this birth of social media, and then kind of learning how to do all this marketing with all these new social media assets beginning.
Yeah.
So, and now that's still today the same, there's just more platforms.
Yeah, it just never seems to end. There's always something new to learn with another platform coming out, or algorithm change on one of them, or something.
Yeah. And even with web design, I mean, I remember just hard coding websites. And then, we were doing Joomla for a while, and then WordPress came along, and that was amazing. And now there's just so many different options of even just AI websites, and what AI has really brought to the table with the technology that's available now.
Yeah. So are you using a lot of AI in your services, or do you have any concerns with the way AI is going, that it could make it more difficult to provide some services?
So I think you have to, pivot and make changes as things change. But there's some things that I think AI is amazing for, but then maybe there's other things that I'm not super excited about using AI for. We still are a very traditional content creation agency. When we write blogs or we put articles on websites, we write them. We don't use AI to write them. And we use AI tools to get information for SEO, and SEMrush is an amazing tool. But we essentially have a human point on that, where we look at everything and we check the keywords and we make sure things are where they need to be. But I think AI is more almost like a time saver, sometimes a little bit with just social media stuff, or if you need something for an email, something in a pinch, an email campaign, something like that. But I have found, at least for us, the human written content seems to rank a little bit better over a long period of time.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I've seen the same thing, and I think it's kind of a dangerous game to, 100% rely on AI content without a lot of human oversight because there's so many errors, and so many
Yeah.
just different things that it does that if you're not looking at it pretty closely, you're going to run into issues. I think there definitely is a play for utilizing it to help, and there's a lot of different ways to utilize it in, creation of ideation and even in the content creation itself sometimes, but you just have to have a lot of human revision and oversight on it to really make it work. And I think that's probably going to be, more so for the future as all the algorithms get better at recognizing the AI. I mean, Google has its own AI tool, so how could it not recognize, what's AI and what's not human? I think it can kind of see those differences.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing too that's been cool is like, now sometimes people use AI for searches. So they're still using Google to a huge degree, but some people use Chat GPT. So learning kind of like taking the things that we're creating for people, the humans are creating, and then building GPTs and then feeding those into the algorithmic searches so that you do have accurate information and you have that human element and it's not just sort of pulled and regurgitated. It's literally just, so I think doing that and like kind of helping to responsibly guide those different tools is like really important right now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of things that are, great with the AI, but also, yeah, you have to steer it, or it's just kind of it tends to go off on its own and do its own thing without a lot of overview and revision.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're still driving the car. And I often will use an analogy. Like I have a car that's like, sometimes if you're like go off of the lane, the car will move you back into the lane. But sometimes if the lane splits, the car doesn't realize it. And I'm like, I'm going over to the lane, but the car is bringing me back. And I'm like, no, like there's got to be a human element there because otherwise it's like you're not really going where you need to go.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So tell me a little bit more, just about your agencies. You do a lot of white label in one and a lot of video creation with the other, right? Do you find it difficult to manage this many services? Do you own both these agencies also?
My husband and I own them together.
Okay.
So my focus is more on the traditional agency just because that's the agency that I've had for 15 years. And I'm really at ease, running that agency. I'm very used to it. My husband is very, very good at video creation. Like
Okay.
he's made the majority of our videos and a lot of the things that you see, a lot of the book trailers and the other stuff. He's like the creative genius behind the video side of it. But yeah, I mean, for the traditional agency, I we work with some clients, but I love working with other agencies because I feel like when you're an agency, you understand what the other agency is going through and what they need for their clients and kind of the pain points and the stuff that they deal with. And I really enjoy collaborating and connecting with other agencies for that reason. Like it's like me, like my agency and the other agency, like I feel like we're able to like better handle the client than just like the agency and the client because it's almost like you have this extra support.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, do you have a lot of employees for, between these agencies, or is it just mostly you and your husband, or what does that look like?
So we have about 30 people
Oh, wow.
that work for us. So it's a lot of different things. So, obviously like I still have a lot of writers. I have writers that have been with me since we started, like at the very beginning. And
Wow.
of course, yeah, I mean, we have a human who edits. I actually have two people that edit, and it's mostly just like many clients will send briefs or they'll have a questionnaire with what they want things to look like. And essentially, we need to make sure, and really a human needs to do this, is to really look at the brief and look at the questionnaire and make sure that the article that we wrote is to our standard and is what the client's asking for.
Yeah.
So that's a lot. And then, specialized videographers and designers and developers. And it's really important, I think, to have a team that you feel confident in and that you can rely on to like hand things off to that that thing is going to be done and done right.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a lot to manage. The agency I was working at in the past, we had 30 something people, and yeah, there's a lot of things going, a lot of balls in the air at any point in time with that many people. Is that between both agencies? 30 between both of them?
Yeah, between both agencies, we have about that many. And really, we have like, we have our upper management, we have our directors of different areas, and we have like our specialized people. Like, we have a person who handles like the bills and the payments and the bookkeeping and that kind of stuff. And then, we have a person who specifically is a creative content director who does different designs of different like brand stuff. And I feel like having a structure, like one thing that we did early on was we sort of made like an organizational chart. And then you have jobs, and then within those jobs, you have the exact, hat or information on what that job is. And we created those really early on. So I can be like, okay, this is your job. This is what it looks like on the chart. Here's everything you need to know about this job. So read through it. And then as we do onboarding, we can kind of go through these different things. And then after that, it's pretty much just like time and experience and like how to handle different scenarios of things that happen.
Yeah, yeah. And it makes sense, getting that built out early on so that you're hiring for the position and not catering the position to the person, so to speak.
Yeah. And we really like had to learn that because when it first started out, it was just me. And then I brought on like a few key people. But then we hit a period where we hit like a lot of growth. Like I remember going from like, we had like 24 or 26 clients. My husband and I were like, this is only when we only had one agency. We were like, we want 100 clients. So we literally were just kind of like ramped up. And I think over the course of that year, we got up to like, I think 86 or 100. But we also were like, you learn a lot when you grow of where your weak points are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you're like, oh,
There's the hole where all the water's leaking.
yeah, and you almost have like we almost had like we had a huge amount of growth, and then we almost had to step back and like scale down a little bit and be like, okay, we have to rebuild these certain areas because they sort of did not hold up on the growth. And now we know we have to reinforce this stuff, and then like you kind of like grow up again, and then things change. Like, when AI really started being used, that was a drop and a change of like, okay, how do we modify things? And that's when we launched the video production. Or like when COVID happened,
Yeah.
we lost like half our clients that
Oh,
had to close because of COVID stuff. But then we ended up bringing on about 50% more clients because those people then needed to ramp up and they needed services.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, we actually experienced a lot of growth during that time, which was kind of surprising. We thought it was going to be the opposite, and then people were wanting to spend more money, trying to capitalize on everything that was going on. I think it's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. We had the same thing. Like we had we had drops of like, oh, okay, these certain ones are closing, but then other ones would be like, we need to increase, or now we need marketing help. Like we had a guy who owned an RV company and he was renting his RVs out to hospitals. So they had like safe, sanitized spaces. And so that ended up being a very big area during COVID because
Oh
these were
wow.
like long-term, several month rentals of these RVs that needed to go onto into the hospitals.
Yeah, that's crazy. Now, you said that you kind of went through a phase where all of a sudden you were, growing quite a bit. What was kind of the aha moment, or, what was the differentiator, do you think, that helped you kind of get past that point where you were, seeing that growth and really getting to a stable point?
I think it was my husband and I really getting on the same page as business partners. Like at the time we decided that we're like, okay, if we're going to grow, we kind of have to adopt some kind of like way to grow this business and like who has what job within the business based on our strengths and weaknesses. And we had to do a very hard thing, which is we had to sit down and really go over our strengths and our weaknesses. And so we both had to write down our strengths and write down our weaknesses and then kind of go over like, this is where I feel I'm strong. This is where, I feel like I'm not strong. And we really focused on the fact that like my husband is very much a driver. He's very much like a people person and he's really good at sales. And I'm very much more of an analyzer or someone who is like works on data and organization and shows people how to do their jobs and kind of builds the structure and the operations of the organization. And otherwise, I think whether your business partner is your, significant other or not, you have to figure out who's doing what in terms of the responsibilities of the business. And if
Yeah.
you don't have that, you end up just doing each other's jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of get into a SWOT analysis of your own assessment and self. Yeah, I think that's a smart thing to do. Um, Does is there a was there a something that you noticed that really helped you with that growth, like get that new clientele, like any type of marketing, any specific type of efforts that you were doing that all of a sudden, really helped, lead to some of that growth as well?
I would have to say that I felt like it was a lot of things at that time. Like it was between, we would have people who called in on the website from SEO and organic growth, but that took us years to build.
Yeah,
It was years of SEO and articles and stuff. And then on top of that, just a lot of outreach, very consistent email campaigns, just almost like building a marketing machine where you have all these different things that you do every week kind of on a checklist, and then doing those things like over and over and over for like a very consistent period of time. And I think for most people with their marketing is like they give up before they get a result.
yeah, yeah. It can be easy to get a little disappointed when things don't happen quickly, and I always tell that to clients when I'm taking on a new SEO clients is it's going to take some time. You're not going to build a new website, especially if you're starting from scratch and start showing up in a competitive market in a couple months. It's going to take a while. You've got to have some things in place and have some sort of a system in place to get business while this is building up. When it does, it's great, but it's going to take some time. Yeah.
For sure. I mean, we recently had a client and it was like, I think it's been about 6 or 8 months now, but it was like slow growth, slow growth. And then all of a sudden, like this month, like my SEO manager was like, they just increased 200 keyword positions and like their SEO is now exploding. And I'm like, yeah, because for the last like 6 to 8 months, we just literally like worked on it and they didn't quit, they didn't give up. And now is like when it's going to start to get good. And then
Yeah.
as we continue, but sometimes it's hard to be patient during that first few months.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. How long do you think it took for you guys to get to where you were getting business from SEO?
Honestly, probably like 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. And it's competitive too as an agency. People don't realize it's probably one of the most competitive things. You've got people that are doing this for clients for themselves and doing it nationally. I mean, you can't really, I mean, some people can, I guess, but I would say, probably most agencies are trying to do it at some level nationally because they're taking clients from all over and helping them in their local markets, depending on, how your agency runs. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I've always believed this since day one, and I still believe it now that the best call you're ever going to get is an organic phone call of a lead.
yeah. Yeah, it's just something different about it when people find you and they're searching for you and they want to hire you now. It's kind of a different conversation than somebody that you just meet in networking. You're like, hey, this is what I do. They weren't looking for you, and it's just kind of not the same type of sale, I think, as it is when somebody's already needs your services. They know they need your services, and they're actively looking, and you are the one that shows up and they find you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had calls where it's been like a six-figure contract because they found us and they called in, and that to me is a very different than like obviously it's nice to get a lead from an ad, but sometimes with ads, like people will be like, did I fill out the form? Like they sometimes I'll get people like, how did I get on here? And you have that from time to time when you have ads.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So you were saying that you had some email marketing campaigns that were working pretty well. Do you still do that?
Yeah. Yeah, very consistently.
Now,
I
do
mean, at
you?
least once a week. I feel like there's certain things is just like outreach, just, making yourself known, putting yourself in front of people and just doing that on a very regular basis. And, sometimes I get people like, hey, I saw your email campaign, but other times it's just like, okay, I'm just going to put this out there and maybe it will help someone.
Mhm. Now, do you have a system to like generate like a cold list of emails that you're always just kind of responding to? What does that look like for you guys? How do you manage that process?
So we don't necessarily do cold emails. We will do some outreach, like just maybe phone outreach or maybe through social media and stuff like that. But what I notice, and like this is with us, and this is what I tell clients, like there's this thing, it's estimation of effort. So it's like what you think it's going to take to move the dial is actually like it's 10 times more than what you think. So if you
Yeah,
think you need to send 100 messages, you actually need to send 1,000.
yeah, yeah. I would agree with that. I think that's pretty accurate assessment.
Yeah. So it's like all the cylinders, every week. And this is one of the things that's helped us a lot is keeping statistics and data. So, like, how many messages do you send on an average week to get X number of clients? How much is each client worth? Like, all of these things. And then, like, okay, well, if I didn't send 400 messages this week and I only sent 50, I'm probably not getting anyone.
Yeah,
But then you can fix things because you look at, like, okay, all of these little things go into this big thing, client acquisition. So you have your email campaigns, you have your organic, you have your cold outreach, you have, whatever you're doing. And then how much of that do you need to do to get the number of clients that you need? And that's to me where a lot of businesses kind of like struggle and even struggle with marketing companies of like, hey, well, it didn't get the result. Well, you didn't do enough. There needs
yeah,
to be a lot more of that being done.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. Do you know off the top of your head roughly how many people you reach out to gain a client on average?
I mean, the email list, I'd say that's 8,000. I would say for sure, easily would be the 8,000 and then probably 1,000 to 1,200 messages every week would be the sweet spot.
Wow. So 8,000 emails and like messages on social media. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, messages, phone calls. I would call it cold outreach, general cold outreach.
Okay. And
Yeah.
how many clients does that typically get started in return?
I would say if you had something like that, I mean, I look at it more like, okay, projects and revenues. So, like, let's say that your revenue, you need to make 50 grand a month. To me, that would probably be the blueprint that I would use to get about 50 grand a month in revenue. And that may be from one big client and that might be from a couple small clients, but you kind of just have to look at like, we've always operated on like we've always had a couple big projects and then we've always had people who are our monthly clients that we do stuff for them, all the
Mm.
time monthly. I even have people that I've had since day one that are still clients. And then I have people who rotate in for a project and then they rotate out and then they rotate back in and you can't really take it personally. It's just like
Just business. Yeah.
that's the business. Like we helped them with this. Okay, cool. Nothing. Follow up, see how they're doing every so often. Maybe we need something else, they come back in. So not every client is going to be a forever client. And so you have to always keep thinking with like client acquisition because if you don't keep that pipeline full, and you're
Mhm.
just like, oh, I'm going to have this client forever. That's not always the way it works. I mean, for almost anyone, if you do have a business where your client is your forever client, that's amazing. But a lot of the time in businesses, it's not guaranteed.
Yeah, exactly. Got to keep that pipeline full, or yeah, you're just not gonna have a stable, steady, growing business. I think now, some people don't seem to grasp that until they're struggling and they really need a client or more, several more clients, and then it starts to click that they just have to continue making those efforts. It's not something you shut off.
Yeah. And the other thing too is like, as we evolve, and you and I have talked about this of just like the different platforms and the different stuff that's needed on social media and digital marketing, it's like video is such a big thing right now and YouTube specifically. So there's this whole nother thing where it's not just SEO and creating content. It's almost like creating video content, putting that together with your other content, and you have this entirely different platform. And we're not even bringing like TikTok into the picture. Like there's so much that needs to be done on each platform, and it's almost has to be slightly different depending on who your audience is and what platform you are. And one thing about digital marketing is it is a tremendous amount of work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, people sometimes I think clients think that, well, you're just, doing computer work, you're just pushing buttons. It should be easy. It's like, there's so many things that go into editing the content and making it, look good on the website, making sure it's optimized and trying to, internally link everything and, formatting things with schema. There's just so many little things that come into it to make it not only look good, but look good for search engines, so that it actually gets picked up and utilized and seems authoritative.
Yeah, for sure. And almost like taking that content, like, okay, I wrote this beautiful in-depth article. Like now I got to make all these YouTube videos. Now I have to make these little shorts and snippets for social media, and like they all need to be done differently. And there's definitely like a lot. I think that
Yeah,
maybe is not understood about the industry, and also like all the things that need to be done to really get the person to the point where they need to be.
yeah, yeah. And I think it's changed, over the last, 10 years or so. That you used to be able to get away with just, posting a long piece of content and making it, really evergreen and authoritative, and it would do well. But anymore, it's like you've got to have mixed media on there. You need to have videos and imagery in there. They need to be optimized well, and it needs to really be a comprehensive resource, and really working those pillars that Google relies on, the EEAT, the experience, expertise, authority, and trust, into the content in several ways for it to really be authoritative and rank really well and show up for a lot of things. And people just don't seem to, sometimes people don't realize how much effort that actually takes. Like you said, there's so many things you need to do. You need to make the videos. You need to, put those in with the content and optimize that together. And yeah, it's just a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. Do you have a favorite thing that you like to do for clients?
That's tough to say. I really enjoy building content out, and especially if the client has some content to work with, like they're active, and like maybe they're building a series of videos that goes with things, so that you can write content, work that in, and then they've got some image resources. Yeah, I would say that's probably like an ideal scenario to me, is just having some resources to work with, because like you probably know, it can be really difficult to get that out of clients sometimes if they're really busy and that's not one of their focuses. It's like, well, we're doing what we can with what we have, but we need more. We need you to do this, this, and this. And when you've got a client that is willing to work with you and to produce some things and give that to you as a resource, everything comes together so much better, I feel like. So I really enjoy building content with clients that are willing to put some work in and provide resources so that you can really make it authoritative, because you do need the client's input for some things, especially like something like the medical industry or something. You're not going to be able to make really good authoritative content without some input from the client, and they need to provide some resources too, because when it comes to like case studies or things that really make those, that EEAT come together, the client has to provide some, especially in certain industries like medical, where there's just so much, I guess, emphasis on like the experience and authority and trust, and all that. I don't think Google is going to allow a lot of content to perform that well when it's just something that anybody can kick out. It needs to be something that comes at least somewhat from the voice of that client who is the actual expert in that industry.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
Do you guys have a specific type of client or industry that you work in a lot? I know you said agencies, but as far as just individual clients you work with, is there any specific industry you work in a lot more than others, or?
My background is healthcare, so we really do like doing healthcare marketing. Healthcare staffing is a really cool one because it's very related to what I did early on in my career. Agencies that are healthcare but very holistic minded, like chiropractic agencies, wellness clinics, med spas. Like I really feel very comfortable in that area only just because I have so much experience in it. But we also really like, like nutrition and skincare and like, which I think are also kind of related.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I enjoy, working in the medical and health industry too. I've, had some clients I've worked with for quite a while, and yeah, I
Yeah.
found it's been fun, and the clients seem to be good to work with as well. I've got a lot of experience in legal too, and I'm always willing to take on some good legal clients, and that can be fun, very challenging at times, especially when you get into like personal injury. in major metros. There's just so many people trying to win that game that throwing a lot of money at things, and it makes it very competitive.
Yeah, no, I get that. We really like filming videos for attorney clients. Like those are usually like really fun ones, honestly. Like we find a lot of like really cool people in there, and I don't know, sometimes just going into the law firms and just sitting down like doing the interviews with the attorneys is like that's been a really fun project for us.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we did a few videos at the agency I was working at for a couple criminal lawyers in particular that were really fun. They had some really cool stories and style that they wanted to portray. So that was pretty fun.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's a great industry. There's some that we don't necessarily prefer, but we take them one at a time. I'm always excited about a project like something where we get to go on location somewhere and somewhere cool, and those are fun for me. Like we're getting ready to go to Italy to film some pizzerias, and this is like for my
Mhm.
podcast.
Very
So
cool.
I'm very excited about that because I love pizza and I love Italy. So I'm like, this could not be a better situation.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you've got some Italian background, is that right?
Yeah, so my dad is fully Italian. My grandparents were immigrants from Abruzzo, Italy, and my family's owned a pizzeria since 1960.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so very, very rich Italian background and heritage.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm assuming that was probably most of the motivation for starting the your pizza podcast is just the family history and all that. Was there any other ideas of potentially taking on like pizzeria clients or anything like that out of curiosity?
At the time, I hadn't even thought about it. It was so funny because I had done marketing forever and I was burnt out. I don't know if you've ever run into this, but I was like, I don't even want to do this anymore. It got to a point for me a few years ago. And this was at the time my dad was having heart surgery, and we went back to Pennsylvania for a year to help my family. And so at the time, I was like, I don't want to do marketing for anyone. And so I ended up going to the pizza place with my dad just to kind of get him out of the house. I started doing the marketing for them. And then we ended up going viral on TikTok, and we had all this success. We went viral on Instagram and we were doing all of these collabs. And so I kind of really fell in love with doing marketing for pizza. I'm still doing their marketing. I feel like I'll do it forever. It's my family's pizza place. So
Yeah.
of course. But yeah, it's definitely a field that I know how to do the marketing. I was born into pizza, so I'm very familiar with how a pizzeria runs. And I have found through the podcast that like it's a really cool, welcoming community, and a lot of the people like they're so talented, and like just the stuff they make, and like I don't know, there's just something about it that it's really very interesting to me.
Yeah, that's very cool. You've done really well with the podcast from what I can see, which is really awesome. I mean, I think you had 30 something episodes last I looked, and a couple thousand or more followers. How did you get so many followers in such a short duration of episodes?
SEO. SEO, also being very consistent, like consistently every Wednesday at 5 a.m. a new episode comes out. The short feeds. I mean, we post shorts almost every single day. So, and SEO on those and content on those. And then through different collaborations, like I'm interviewing the pizzerias and often we'll collaborate, which is awesome. So then that helps to drive more people. But it's been a game for me. I think the podcast came out, I think, January of this year.
Oh, wow.
So I am not at my target, but I'm I'm consistently growing it every week, and I have season 3 we just started, so I have a bunch of episodes for that, and then we're going to do the Italian series in Italy, and then just from there. But I love the podcast, and I'm really almost testing my marketing knowledge on growing the podcast and like what it really takes to take a podcast from 0 to 100,000 subscribers. Like how long does it take? How many videos does it take? Like what is the right estimation of effort to really get your podcast or your channel to end up being a viral channel?
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's amazing that you've been able to do that so quickly. You're a little ways ahead of me as far as that goes. I'm hoping to get a few more followers. Do you do any other type of marketing other than like SEO for like the episodes? Do you promote them, on YouTube or do anything like that?
Every so often, I'll do like a little bit of a boost, but right now I'm kind of deciding like, do you boost the whole episode or the short? Because the short seems to be getting like more traffic, but then you can connect the full episode to the short. Um, the one thing that I was very surprised about, which you can see on the YouTube channel, is I actually ended up putting one of my children's books on there and I just did like a read aloud book. And that thing like took off. Like I was kind of like shocked. Like I feel like I have at like 11,000 views on it right now. And I was a little bit like of all the things, like I think maybe parents are wanting like give it to their kids at night to like, like as a read aloud. It seems like that one has like
Yeah.
blown up for some reason.
Sometimes it's just like, why this one? What made this take off so well? It's weird.
That's the funny thing about marketing is like I've had people in the past be like, "Oh, this isn't going to do good," and I'm like, "Listen, don't say that till you post it," because I've had things like when we went viral on TikTok, it was from pizza cutting videos, and I never thought in a million years that I would have 64 million views on a pizza cutting video. Like, how? But it's like the simplest thing to make. It's a sound of a pizza being cut. It looks delicious, but like seriously, like I tried 20 other things and I was like, oh, I guess this is the thing that works. So like don't be afraid to try things and like you don't know it's going to work until you put it out there.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. TikTok is a weird beast. It seems like there's a lot of things that blow up that's just like certain sounds and visuals of things just do so well for some reason.
Yeah, there's apparently a trend which I haven't tried it yet of like people like to look at videos where people are reading the books like to fall asleep like reading books out loud. So I was like, all right, well maybe one day I'll just like read the children's book and then like see if it works.
Yeah, there's some strange trends on there. I've noticed one that I guess there's a lot of people using these videos of people playing games like Minecraft, and then the podcast is playing on top of it, and then it just runs through and keeps going. And apparently some of those do really well, which is like why I have no idea, but I guess I need to try it.
Well, like people eating food, like that's
Yeah,
another huge one.
which is
Like,
weird. I don't want to
yeah,
watch food, but okay.
like listening to people chewing and
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you
To some
know,
people that drives crazy, and I guess other people like to listen to it. Super
oh
weird.
yeah, 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 definitely some odd stuff on TikTok.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a unique beast for sure. Have you tried doing much promotion or anything on TikTok? I played around with it a little bit, but
No, I want to. I'm still kind of like, I have the one viral page for my dad's pizza place. And I've still been playing around with like what is going to work for the pizza page that I have. I'll be honest, I have been completely negligent on doing any TikTok for my marketing company. Like little to nothing ever, which, at some point maybe, but I kind of want to get the pizza one going and maybe when I'm in Italy, maybe I can do some videos there and see how those do. But it's definitely an interesting beast because you don't know until you try it.
yeah. Yeah, I've played with it a little bit for a couple different businesses, and it seems like the algorithm has changed a little bit. Like a couple years ago, you could promote something and your followers mattered. Like once you got followers and you posted new things, you would get some traction just because of those. And now it's like they've changed the algorithm to where that doesn't matter at all, and it feels like it's more locked down. Like it feels like every platform does this. As they learn how to monetize, they want your organic posts to do less and less and less so that you pay more and more and more. And I feel like that's kind of what's happening there now. But it does seem like you can get a decent amount of reach for what you spend there. So I mean that's good still.
I think you can also like YouTube is similar. Like there was a very long time before I ever tried to boost anything. And really the shorts feed was what helped me a lot. And very consistently posting content were the two things where, I'm a little bit of a stalker. Like I will check my YouTube stats like probably 3 times a day, which you probably just need to check them once a day, but I will check them like first thing in the morning. Like most people are probably scrolling Instagram. I'm checking YouTube's. Like I
Yeah,
want to see how many views I got. Like what are people watching?
yeah. It's
Becomes a
hard
little
not.
bit. Go ahead.
It's hard not to once you kind of, get something like a podcast or something and put it out there. You want to know how it's doing. You want to see, is it getting growth? Is it getting traction here? Yeah, it's hard to, and I tell the same thing to like ranking, clients that are trying to get rankings with SEO that don't look at it every day. It's going to drive you crazy. Just let it be for a little while until it starts to get some traction.
Yeah, I had to do that with Spotify. Like at first, like, my Spotify was like brand new. And I only look at it when I post my episodes. But then every week I get to see like, okay, it grew now, but it took up until I think this past week I noticed it doubled, but it's been this whole time of like since January where it's just been like this slow growth. And now all of a sudden Spotify and Apple Podcasts is now increasing, but it's been months of episodes.
Interested in becoming a guest, sponsoring episodes, or have suggestions for the show? Check out our website at BizGrowMojo.com. Also, you can sign up for our newsletter where you'll get updates about upcoming episodes and guests, special offers, insights and breakdowns from previous episodes, as well as marketing and business tips you can apply to your own business. Go to BizGrowMojo.com/newsletter.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes some time for sure. I just talked to somebody the other day that, I interviewed on the podcast, and he was saying it took him about 3 years to get his YouTube channel to actually really do much of anything. He was posting, really regularly, and it just took a long time for the algorithm to actually do anything with it, organically.
Yeah, one thing I tell people to do, whether it's like clients or whoever I'm talking to, is I'm like, go find three people that are doing something in the same thing, same industry you're doing, but where you want to be, who have been doing it a lot longer than you, who are a lot bigger than you, and go look at how much they've done. And then you should probably look at the fact that you just need to double that. And until you've done that, you're not going to be at the point where you want to. And I did that when I started my pizza stuff. And I'm like, these people have been out there hustling for 3, 5, 7 years. And if I'm going to do this, like when you want to give up is like the 8 month to 1 year mark. When you feel like, oh, I've been doing this for a year and I don't have what I need.
Never
Well,
gonna pan out. Yeah.
yeah, like this other guy's like been on this for 7 years. Like just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were able to find other people with pizza podcasts? I thought maybe you were the only one.
Not like pizza, but like,
Yeah.
Italian culture, like very like similar type industries of like, okay, who's really good at this? Like who's been doing this? Like one of the ones I think it's like the Italian American podcast. I'm like obsessed with it. Like they're a really big podcast, but like these people have been at it. Or like, like the Pasta Queen. Like I love the Pasta Queen and her stuff is so cool. But she's been at it and she posts so like consistently and she's always coming up with new stuff. And there's just a lot of drive that needs to go when you're doing this kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to keep persevering past the point of no return, I think, and just keep going until it does
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good advice. What you're saying about just, continuing on, because I think it's yeah, and doing, doubling what you see other people doing, because I think that's one thing that also happens is the algorithms are constantly changing, and what worked a year ago might not be enough anymore, because it's just there's more and more content all the time, more and more people getting into everything. And I noticed that, like, I tried to start a t-shirt brand. It's still something I'm working on in the background a little at a time. But I looked a lot at like the founder of Grunt Style and kind of what he did. And that was like in the glory days of Facebook, when you could post memes and they would get organic traction. And since then, I remember in our agency, kind of that time frame. And he was talking about it on another podcast about that was kind of like their moment where everything changed when he started doing that. But that doesn't work anymore. You're not going to post anything organically on Facebook. Maybe after God knows how long it'll actually gain traction, but not like it did in the time frame that he was doing it, where it really blew up, because they clamped the algorithm down so hard to eliminate organic growth and in favor of paid growth. So that's one of the things. It's just like, if you would have just looked at that, yeah, you need to at least double it, because what he did at that time frame worked, but now it's not going to work the same. So you just got to plan on doing more than what worked 2 or 3 years ago, I think.
Sure. And I mean, there's certain platforms like Facebook, like pay to play. Like that's the way it goes. Like you can keep posting on Facebook until you're blue in the face. You're not really going to get very much movement unless you like have a group and you do a lot of work to get people in the group until like you reach out to people. And really Instagram, unless you're collabing, unless you're promoting, unless you're following and you're networking with people, like it's the same thing. And
Yeah.
it really, this stuff is not magic. It just takes work.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of it takes money too to, promote, like you're saying, because I think, all these platforms at one time have like a golden era before they figure out really how to monetize it. That if you figure the right thing out, you can get a huge following and, without spending too much money on. But it's gonna go, that time frame is gonna go away, before too long, and you're gonna have to pay to play.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
would
it's true.
I would love to see a new platform come out that hadn't figured out monetization yet that would blow up. So, we could take advantage of it again. But it's been a while. I feel like since there's been anything really great to capitalize on.
I mean, TikTok was like that at the very beginning.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was people were going viral left and right. Their lives were changing. It was like pretty crazy, but I think it's gotten more difficult to do that now because so many people are trying to do it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So people see the success, they flood in, and then it changes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But you're right. We need more platforms. I think YouTube does a lot for its creators, but there's a lot of work that you have to do on your end too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. As far as your businesses go, which one would you say brings in the most revenue? I'm guessing probably not the podcast as of yet.
I mean, if I have had like my perfect wish, it would be the podcast and the pizza books. But, I just started that. So
Yeah,
I'd say it's a mix because like we do have very consistent revenue from the traditional marketing company. I think people will always need like, website cleanups and protection and SEO and content. And like there's those things that are just, it's time consuming for you to do it yourself.
yeah,
But
for sure.
the video has taken off because we can go into a place and we can shoot a year's worth of video in a few days. And then that, we make all the social media clips and we can post them and optimize them. And you talk about a time saver, like try to figure out every day what you're going to create for social media and then go ahead and video it and then go ahead and edit it and then go ahead and post it. And that's pretty much what you've done that day.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So that one's been good because if anyone has tried to do it themselves, then they know how much work it is to try to manage their social media like effectively versus like having someone come in and give you so much content that you have stuff all the time.
Yeah, yeah, big difference. Yeah, as far as that goes with like your own promotions, like you were talking about the amount of emails and messages and everything that you guys send out just to get, business coming in. How do you guys manage that? How many people do you have working on that to manage that amount of messages a day? Do you have like tools that make it way easier? Tell me a little bit about that.
For some platforms, yeah, like something like LinkedIn or something like that. But also ultimately we have people that work for us that, between 1 and 4 people we usually have. And it's just like one of those things that's like every week you do outreach and you just keep doing outreach and then you do more outreach. And then you just keep doing outreach.
Yeah, yeah, it just never ends. Yeah, it's one of those things you got to keep doing. It's like, you can't just set it and forget it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I wish that was the case, but it's just not. But it's one of those things where, it's an ebb and flow. I think any business, you grow, you fix things, you maybe take a few steps back and then you modify and then you move forward again. And that's just the game.
Yep. Got to pivot and try something new sometimes.
Yeah. Not take it too seriously. Like my husband and I always talk about like, don't take your highs too high and your lows too low.
Yeah, that's good advice. I like that.
Yeah. Because they're very much so, especially at the beginning, I was the person that was like, you know, the highest of highs, something great would happen. The lowest of lows, something not good would happen. And it was just sort of had to like level out of like, okay, so just doing business and just kind of staying calm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you had any unexpected channels take off for any of your businesses that, or maybe just really helped a lot and you just didn't expect it to happen?
I'd say more recently LinkedIn for the pizza stuff. Like, I never really thought that there would be like an audience for it. And because it's like a little bit different than just like standard business,
Yeah.
standard marketing, whatever, which is what I always used it for. But I found like a bunch of communications and support and reactions to like, I just started sort of posting all of my pizza stuff, my podcast stuff, and my clips and everything. And it has seems to be pretty welcome on that platform. Like people seem to like the lighter side of things every so often,
Yeah.
which I really like because I like the people on LinkedIn a lot.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. It seems like a little less, professional business oriented posts, a little more personal seem to kind of be the thing there now that seems to be getting a little bit more attention.
Yeah, I felt like it was more fun. It was just more what I wanted to talk about versus like I had been previously talking about marketing a lot, which is great, but like, I just had this like I want to talk about pizza and who doesn't like pizza?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's awesome. Any mistakes that you made in marketing, as you've grown that you were like, I would never put money into that channel again or anything like that?
Man, that's a good question. I would say this is a good thing, but also not a good thing. Like there's been times where we've done Google ads, but maybe not done them in the way they should have been done. So I think that's one that you have to watch because you can burn up your money on that very, very easily. Now, it also can be a really good resource. Like I have clients that do really well with it, and some clients, like Google Ads closed, they wouldn't have a business anymore.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those things where you can't just always rely on that because like I had a client one time where Google changed their guidelines and they couldn't run Google ads anymore. It
Yeah.
was like a 911 situation. So I think like if you're only relying on that, you have to figure out other things to create so that if that one thing goes away, that you're not like, screwed
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen that happen too in like the medical industry. They'll make guideline changes where you can't talk about this a certain way anymore, and yeah, it has an impact on specific industries at different times. And the other thing too is you quit throwing money into it. There's nothing else coming. Not like organic where you can build that up and it's kind of like that snowball going downhill. You still want to keep pushing it, but it's gained momentum at some point where ads really don't. Plus, it's a complex beast. I'd say that Google Ads is the most complex platform to run ads on. It's like you really need to have somebody that's very good at it, running that to be at its peak performance.
Yeah, you need to have someone that knows what they're doing that is really dedicated to doing that.
Yeah.
So that's one for sure. I mean, I think the other thing is too, I think a lot of people that I've talked to, at least, they don't love marketing. And it can be super confusing because you have all these words that people don't understand. You have all these platforms and like people don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
And I think like the simplest thing is like, okay, who is your audience? Where are they? Okay,
Mm,
just start there. Like just there's got to be a way to simplify it. And that would to me would be like, okay, just pick out who do you want to sell this to and where are they at?
yeah.
And then just don't think about the rest until you've got that in order.
Yeah. Get that foundational stuff down and go from there.
Yeah.
Have you found any tools that you've, liked particularly well that have helped your business grow or helped automate things?
I mean, I love LinkedIn automations. Like I love them. I mean, when my books came out, that one of the people that I talked to a lot were just like libraries, bookstore owners. So being able to grab an audience, talk to them and get, outreach to 40 or 50 people a day, that was magical. Now there's certain other places where like, it's not the best. And I will tell you, I get tons of automations. And if I get an automation that's like this big, I'm not reading it. I won't read it. If it's one sentence, I'll probably look at it. So that's the other thing too, is like, I don't know if you experienced this or used any kind of like automation tools, but I think it's like the very beginning of automations, it was like three paragraphs of like, and then like you'd hit connect and then you get like three, and like 6 hours later you get like three paragraphs, and then like another 2 hours you get three paragraphs. And I was like, absolutely not. So it was just like one of those of like, okay, I need to connect with this person, but then where do I guess move the automation off and talk to them.
Yeah. 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 There's that fine line, right?
Yeah.
How about being a business owner? Like, how has that impacted your life up to this point?
What is it again? I'm sorry.
How would you say being a business owner has impacted your life up to this point?
I think it's taught me a lot. I mean, being a business owner, it's not like you're just getting that paycheck every Friday. That is not the way it works. If you don't get the job done and you don't get the product, you are not getting paid.
Yeah,
So I think on that, you have to have some grit and you have to be willing to sort of persist through the problems and the things that come up and kind of also understand and know how to get a result. Because if you're doing marketing and you can't get a result for people, you're not going to have clients.
yeah, absolutely.
So
You have to
yeah,
be
so
effective to keep
yeah,
getting paid.
and you have to also be. It's impacted my life of just like having to change and learn new things because marketing changes every single day,
Never ending.
never ending.
Do you feel like you've achieved success in your business right now?
I think if someone else were to look at it, they would say that I've achieved success. If, per my standards, I'm not exactly where I want to be with things. So I would say yes and no.
Okay. Is there a rough like area of revenue that you can disclose, or are you open to that for your agencies?
The place that I want to be is upwards of 100 million when it's all said and done.
It's a good place to be.
Yeah, like the day that I'm like, okay, it's the day that I'm ready to retire, that I'm like, okay, I made the goal, it would be there. Now, if I'm not there, I will continuing to be working on it until I'm there.
Do you think you would sell if you hit that point, or what would you do?
I don't know. I mean, we've talked about a couple different things. My husband and I are very similar that like when we hit a goal, we always want to go to the next goal. We're like those people that are just like not happy with a goal. We're ready for the next thing. Um, I really do want to focus more on my author career and my podcast. I have my novel, I have a second novel, and I have a children's book series, and I probably would focus more on that and probably go into like a more of just a managerial, not as much hands-on if I got to that point.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
but we'll see. We have, we're not super old. We have we have a long ways to go. But we're growing every year, and that's the goal. Is like, okay, what did we do this year? Okay, good. Let's do this now. The next year, what did we not do right? What can we fix? And I think if you continue to persist towards the goal, like you will eventually get there.
Yep. Got to keep pressing forward.
Yeah. Yeah, especially like my husband and I are both very tenacious. Like we don't give up very easily. We're like, no, we're not there. We're gonna keep pressing on.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, you have to be, I think, to make any business work.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, how long have you had the agency?
So I actually left the agency that I was with for about 14 and a half years, and I'm just a few months into starting to build my own agency.
Okay,
A little bit newer
that's
on the journey,
awesome.
but I was with that agency since it was the founder and one other guy, and we built it to like 30 something people, almost 9 million in revenue. So it was fun. We had a lot of fun, a lot of learning lessons along the way, and I just want to try to kind of do something similar again. I don't know if I'll try to grow it that big. I really like being hands-on and being involved in my clients' campaigns, so we'll see where it goes. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun so far.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's really cool though. I remember like the beginning time of launching the first agency, and it was very fun to kind of put that there, and it's like very new and adventurous.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved the early days when, I was working for the agency and we were just building it up. There was just something about the bootstrapping aspect of it that's just a lot of fun, just trying to figure out that next step and get things going. And yeah, just being involved with so much of the day-to-day things and systems and operations and building all that up. It's just something really fun about that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And what is your overall goal? Like, where do you see yourself?
That's a good question. Um, my goal right now is to build like $1 million agency, at least $1 million a year, and kind of see where that goes, and then kind of take a look at where things are at and the journey up to that point, and decide what to do next.
Absolutely. That was our initial goal, or my initial goal was like, okay, I need to build it to stably $1 million a year. And then from that million mark, which I think this is the hardest growth time, is going from 1 million to 10 million.
Yeah.
That is like where the real problems start kicking in.
Lot of challenges, especially getting to 5 million. We noticed in the agency that
Yeah.
I was with, there was a lot of struggles to get there. It seemed like it got a little easier for a while, and then to hit that 10 million, there was a lot of growth lessons, that we
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And again, it's like one of those things, like you scale up and like then you're like, okay, these things, it's very clear that these are the things that are broken now that we're at this capacity.
yeah, some things they don't matter that much until you hit a certain point. Then it's like, okay, we have to figure this out now.
Yeah, like layering outness. 911 red flag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you do differently if you had to go back and do it all over again?
I don't know if I do anything differently. It has been a learning experience. Now, when I think, well, one thing, when I dealt with the problems, I think I took things very personally and I would get very emotional about it. So I think that that's one thing, is just, again, don't take your highs too high, don't take your lows too low.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah.
Uh, is there one tip that you would say you would give to somebody else wanting to build a similar, businesses you've built? What's one thing you think everybody needs to hear that wants to do that?
I mean, some days it's going to suck. Like, honestly, like some days you're going to want to quit. Like, that's, you're going to have a client that blows up. Someone's going to ask you for a refund. These are all part and parcel of business. And that is the cost of doing business. And also, like, the bigger you grow, the bigger your problems are going to be. So just like get ready. Like, as you grow, like, just you're going to have bigger problems because you're playing a bigger game.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, Eric, I really appreciate all your insight and information. I think I've asked most of the questions that I wanted to ask and cover. Very interesting. You're very ambitious, obviously. Tackling managing these two agencies with your husband and growing those and doing a podcast on top of it. I have a little bit of experience kind of trying to do something similar, so I know how challenging doing so many different things can be. But yeah, it sounds like you've done really well with it, and it's really cool. Is there any last things that you'd like to tell the audience, or any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, just don't take it too seriously. Marketing should be fun. It should be creative. It should be something you dread doing. So just, like take everything with a grain of salt and figure out like how you can be creative and really like communicate what you do to people.
Yeah, exactly. Figure out what it is you do best and how to tell that in the best way to your prospective clients.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, where can somebody go to learn more about you and your businesses?
So I think the best place is createone.com. They can also go to webcontentdevelopment.com, but createone.com seems to be an easier one to just type in and go there.
Okay. How about your podcast?
So Pizza Story. So if you search a story about pizza, which is the book, Pizza Story podcast, you can find tons of podcasts there. We got a new episode every single week, and we have like highlight clips coming out almost every single day, like 7 days a week.
Awesome. Well, appreciate your time, Erica. It's been really fun talking with you. And again, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
You've been listening to the BizGrowMojo podcast with Ryan Amon. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on the BizGrowMojo podcast.